Let's see. With 0 labor, my output was 0. As I hired 1 labor, the output increased to 8 per day. With 2 labors, the output increased to 20 shirts per day. As I hired the third person, the person was not as productive. He could only give me 6 shirts because he didn't have enough machines. As I hired 1 more, the marginal product was even lower. Please understand the definition of marginal product. It is defined as the additional output from the addition of 1 more labor. So what is the marginal product here? From 8 to 20, it is 12 units. From 20 to 26, it is 6 units. From 26 to 30, 4 units. 30 to 32, 2 units. The marginal product increases because from 8 to 12 and then keeps falling in the short run. Now let's move on to understand the cost structure of the firm. Now every firm will have certain fixed costs. Fixed costs include rent, electricity bill, CEO's salary, a security guard. These costs are not dependent on the output or the level of production. Regardless of the level of production, I still have to pay the rent, electricity. I still need to have 1 CEO. I still need to hire a security guard. So these are the costs that will be there even if there is 0 production, and even if there is a very high production, these costs will still more or less remain the same. So in our case, the total fixed cost is $20 a day. This remains the same every day. The variable cost is basically just the labor, and each labor costs $20 a day. So if you produce no shirts or no output, what will be the total fixed cost? I will still have to incur $20. What will be the total cost? It will be 20 fixed plus 20 variable. That is the total cost of $20. If I produce 8 shirts, that means I'm employing 1 labor, which would mean a total fixed cost of $20, total variable cost of $20, and a total cost of $40. Marginal cost is defined as the additional cost for the production of 1 more unit of the product. The additional cost that I have to spend for producing 1 more unit. So for producing 8 more units, how much extra money do I have to spend? Earlier also I was spending 20. Now I'm spending 20 more. So for producing 8 more units, I need to spend a total of $20 more. So what is the marginal cost, or what is the additional cost per unit? It is 20 divided by 8. For 8 more units, I spend $20 more, or I spend $2.5 per extra unit. The average fixed cost is defined as the total fixed cost divided by the output. The average variable cost is the total variable cost divided by the output. The average total cost is the total cost divided by the output. So let's compute. The average fixed cost comes out to be 20 by 8 equal to 2.5. Average variable cost comes out to be again 20 divided by 8 equal to 2.5. Average total cost comes out to be the total cost, that is 40 divided by 8 equals to 5. You can also note that the total fixed cost plus the total variable cost equals the total cost. The average fixed cost plus the average variable cost is equal to the average total cost. So let's increase the output. Now, if the labor increases by one more unit, so if we add one more unit, what would the output increase to? Output would increase from 8 units to 20 units, or the marginal product would be 12 units. For an additional of 10 units, or for an additional 12 units rather, what is the additional cost that I need to spend? So if I hire 2 laborers, fixed cost will be 20 units. The variable costs would be 2 into 20, that is 40 units, and the total cost would be 60 units. So how much additional money do I have to spend for getting 12 more units? For getting 12 more units, I need to spend $20 more. So what is the marginal cost per unit? Marginal cost now comes out to be 20 divided by 12, or it is equal to $1.67 per unit. What is the average fixed cost? Average fixed cost is the total fixed cost divided by the total output. So it will be 20 divided by 20 equals to $1. What is the average variable cost? It is the total variable cost divided by the total output. It's 40 divided by 20 is equal to 2 units. And the average total cost is the total cost divided by the output, or you can just take the sum of the two. It will come out to be $3 per unit of production. Now let's see what happens to the marginal cost as I add more and more labor, or as I keep adding labor. So if I increase labor from 2 to 3 workers, the third worker only gives me 6 additional units. If he only gives me 6 additional units and I still have to pay him $20 more because each worker comes for $20 a day, so my total cost would now be 20 of fixed plus 3 into 20, 60 of variable, a total of $80. So I have to spend $20 more for how many additional shirts? So I still spend $20 more for only 6 more shirts. So what is the marginal cost? The marginal cost moves up to 3.8. 33. The average fixed cost comes down from 20 by 20 to 20 by 26. It is the total fixed cost divided by the output, 2.77. Average variable cost comes out to 60 divided by 26, or 2.31. Average total cost is the sum of the two, or you can do 80 divided by 26, comes out to be 3.08. Now see that the average variable cost and the average fixed costs have started to move up, and as we will see that they will continue to move up. Now let's see the average age of the 15 students, or the average age of the class is 45, or let's make it 25. So the average age of the class is 25 years. And I add one new student with the age of 50. So the average of the class of, let's say, 15-20 students is 25 years, and I've added one new student with the age of 50. So what will happen to the average? The average will move up. The average is going to move up because the marginal student has a larger age. Similarly, if I add one new student with the age of 10 years, then what will happen to the average? The average will move down from 25. The concept we are trying to explain is that if the marginal cost is higher than the previous average, then the average cost will move up. If the marginal cost is lower than the previous average, then the average will move down. Now it will move up, but it won't become 10, or rather it won't become 50, or it won't move down to 10. It will come down from 25, but it will not be equal to the marginal, because there is the whole base of previous students as well. So that's what's happening here as well. As the marginal cost changes to 1.67, or the marginal cost is lower than the previous average, average of 2.5 is the previous average, and the marginal cost is lower than the previous average, the average will move down. As the marginal cost is higher than the previous average, the average will move up. So the average moves up to 3.08. Similarly, let's do it for the fourth worker. If we add one more worker, total fixed cost remains the same. We are paying each worker $20 a day. So we spend $80 in variable costs, taking our total costs to $100. How many more units of production do we get? 4 units. For an additional 4 units, we have to pay $20. So what is the marginal cost? It will be 20 divided by 4. That is, for one additional unit, I have to now spend $5 more. The average fixed cost will keep going down. The average variable cost will keep going up, because The marginal cost is higher than the previous average. So these are the relationships that we've just discussed. Let's see how the curves will be represented graphically. The marginal cost, the average variable cost, and the average fixed cost. Using the information for Sam's shirts presented in the previous figure, calculate the marginal cost when the output increases from 8 to 20. When the output increases from 8 to 20, that is for 12 more shirts, we have to spend additional $20. So the marginal cost is $1.67 per shirt. Now let's see. The marginal cost curve initially decreases. So this is where the first to the second employee. Why is it decreasing? Because I'm getting 12 more shirts for just $20. Thereafter, the marginal cost curve keeps going up because incremental guys cost $20, but they produce a lot less incremental number of shirts. The average variable cost will keep coming down till the time the marginal cost is below the previous average. As soon as the marginal cost starts moving up, or the marginal cost is higher than the previous average, the average will start moving up. The average fixed cost will always be a downward sloping curve because fixed cost remains same. As output increases, the fixed cost will keep coming down. The x-axis here is the output per day or the shirts per day, and the y-axis is the cost. The distance between the average total cost and the average variable cost is nothing but the average fixed cost. So average variable cost plus the average fixed cost will give us the average total cost. So remember the properties of the cost curves. Marginal cost, average variable cost, and average total cost are all U-shaped curves. The average variable cost and the average total cost curves cut the marginal cost curve at its lowest point or at their lowest points. So average variable cost curve will cut the marginal cost curve at the lowest point or at the average variable cost's lowest point. Similarly, the average total cost curve will cut the marginal cost curve at its lowest point. The distance between the average total cost and the average variable cost is the average fixed cost, and the average fixed cost is always a downward sloping curve. These are the properties that we just discussed. Till the time the marginal cost curve is falling, both the average total cost and the average variable cost will be falling. As the marginal cost curve exceeds the average variable cost, the average variable cost will start moving up. That means wherever this intersection happens is the lowest point for the average variable. So average variable cost is the lowest at this level. It will start increasing from here onwards. Similarly, average total cost keeps moving down till the time the marginal cost is lower. As soon as the marginal cost goes higher than the average total cost will start moving up. So wherever they intersect is the lowest point for the average total cost. The cost curves that we discussed up till now were for the short run. So this was one short run average total cost curve. We defined short run as where capital was fixed. In the long run, both capital and labor are variable. So in the short run, I cannot expand capacity, but in the long run, I can. So the big outer curve is the long run average total cost curve. What the first half of the curve represents are economies of scale. As the firm increases production, the average cost per unit keeps coming down until Q star. What is the reason? The reason is twofold. First, the fixed costs are getting spread over a higher base because Q is high, so on a per unit fixed costs become very low. And second, there is specialization of labor happening. As the firm becomes bigger, as the quantity of production becomes large, the firms can have specialized marketing teams, specialized administration, specialized HR. Whereas in a small firm, the same department has to handle everything. So as labor becomes specialized and more skilled in their particular activity, the per unit costs decrease. However, it has been seen that as firms become too large, the economies of scale turn into diseconomies of scale. That is, after a point, as size keeps becoming bigger and bigger, the costs per unit become or start becoming higher. The reason why diseconomies happen is first, the motivation of employees becomes a problem after a point. Why? If it's a company of 10 people, then what is the chance that I will become the CEO? 10% on an average? Because one person will become the CEO. If it is a company of 10,000 people, then what is the chance that I'm going to get promoted or I'll become the CEO? Much lesser. So as companies become bigger, the motivation of employees decreases because for one promotion there are 300 people. So your likelihood of working hard and making it are much lesser than in a smaller company. Second, there comes in the bureaucracy in large firms. For a small firm, decision making is very quick. So if a new project or a good opportunity comes, the firm can quickly close in on it. For a large firm, there will be one approval to the next approval to the final committee that will decide whether it should be taken on or not, in which time the project could either already have been slipped by or the opportunity would not be as large. So because of these issues of bureaucracy and motivation, after a particular point it is seen that costs of unit, instead of going down, start to go up. Now, a perfect competition is defined as an industry where all producers sell identical products So the product is exactly the same. Second, there are a large number of buyers and sellers. Third, each individual buyer or seller is insignificant or is small relative to the overall scheme of things. And finally, there are no barriers to entry or exit. Such a situation would be termed as a perfect competition. So let's take an example. What market would behave or we think is like a perfect competition? There are no barriers to entry or exit. That means capital is not required. Very large number of buyers, very large number of sellers, exactly the same product. It's not similar, it's an identical product. So our vegetable vendor on the street or in the market is a good example of perfect competition. Each individual buyer or seller is insignificant. No barriers to entry or exit, large number of buyers, large number of sellers, and they're all selling identical products. Now what happens in a perfect competition is that the demand curve is not downward sloping, or the demand curve is perfectly elastic. So if the vegetable vendor can sell at a particular price, then he will be able to sell all that he has. So whatever is the market price of the potatoes, if he sells at that price, he will be able to sell everything. If he charges a higher price, then his demand will immediately fall to 0. If he charges a lower price, his demand will become infinite, or everyone will come and buy from him, but we will just prove that he will be unprofitable or he will be unable to sustain that. So a perfectly elastic demand curve or a perfectly elastic market or a perfect competition has a perfectly elastic demand curve. Perfectly elastic demand curve means the elasticity is infinite. Please watch the previous video if you've forgotten what elasticity means. It is the percentage change in the quantity demanded for a 1% change in price. So if the price increases by 1%, this is the demand curve. The y-axis is the price per unit. The x-axis is the quantity. If the price is increased, demand will become 0. Price is decreased, demand will become infinite. So each seller is a price taker. Whether he sells 0 kgs of potatoes or 1 kg of potato or 6 kgs of potatoes, the price that he will get is the market price, that is $90. The property of perfect competition is that the marginal revenue is the same as the average revenue. That is, because the average revenue or the demand curve is not downward sloping, he can sell all units at the same price. If he sells from 4 to 5, then what will be the revenue from one additional product? It will be $90 because he's selling every additional unit at $90. So please remember that the marginal revenue in the case of perfect competition is equal to the average revenue is equal to the price. Now the marginal cost curve and the average total cost and the average variable costs in the short run will be the same for exactly all market structures. We are going to study many different market structures in the coming slides. Just remember that the cost curves are the same for all structures. That is, the marginal cost slopes downwards, then slopes upwards. Average total cost, average variable cost, cut the marginal cost curve at their lowest points, so on and so forth, the points we discussed in the previous slides. Now, what is the objective of any business? Or any private business rather? Two options: to maximize sales, or second, to maximize profits. Is it option 1 or 2? We will study various market structures. We studied perfect competition already. We will study monopoly. We will study monopolistic competition. We will study oligopoly, so on and so forth. It doesn't matter what structure a firm is operating in. The objective of every firm is to maximize profit. So all firms exist to maximize profit for their shareholders. Now, till the time my marginal cost of production is lower than the marginal revenue, which means I'm earning more from selling the product than what I'm spending. Am I adding to my profit? It may be a small number. Let's say the marginal revenue from the last shirt is 20 and the marginal cost is 19.5. Should the shirt be produced? Answer is yes. Are you making a profit? Are you adding to your profits? You have two options: stop production or get 0.5 extra. 0.5 is 0.5. It is additional profit. So I will get the $0.5 and produce the shirt. Always remember, it doesn't matter the market structure. In all market structures, an entrepreneur or a firm will continue to increase production till the time marginal revenue is the additional revenue from the sale of one more product, till the time the marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost. Always. This is the point where profit is maximum. If I produced more than this, what will happen? Marginal revenue, remember, keeps sloping down. Remember the curves that we drew. This was the demand curve, this was the marginal revenue curve. Marginal revenue can even go negative. And the marginal cost keeps going up. This is where we should stop production. If we don't stop and we produce more, then for all subsequent units produced, I am receiving less and I'm spending more, causing a loss. So I will reduce my profits if I produce beyond that point. If I stop production before that point, then I will lose out on some profit that I could have earned. Let's see an example and understand. So for the perfect competition that we are discussing, if we sell no units then we will get no revenue, but will we still have to spend the fixed costs? So the total costs are $50, or the total fixed costs are $50. If we produce and sell 1 unit of the product, then we will be able to earn a revenue of $90, and the total cost increases to $135. So what is my profit? It is the total revenue minus the total cost. Never mind this, it is the other way around. It is total revenue minus the total costs. It comes out to be 90 minus 135, which is equal to minus 45. The marginal revenue is $90 and the marginal cost is $85. Is the marginal revenue greater than the marginal cost? Yes. Hence, I should continue production, or I should produce. It will increase my profits. At a quantity of 0, what is my total profit? It is 0 minus 50 equal to minus 50. If I produce 1 unit, my profit goes up from minus 50 to minus 45, or my loss comes down. As I produce the second unit, I get a total revenue of 180 and total costs of 215. So what is the marginal cost? For producing one more unit, I need to spend how much more? $80 more. So the total cost, or the total increase in costs, is $80. So the marginal cost for the production of one more unit is $80. Again, marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. So I should produce, I am reducing my total loss. This is the point till which the marginal costs are coming down. It's a U-shaped curve. Beyond this point, the marginal costs start moving up. Till the time the marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost, I should continue production. I would be increasing my profits. So from minus 50, we've reached plus 20. If marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, I can produce, but I won't be adding anything to my profits because my revenue is equal my incremental costs. If I produce beyond this, I will cause a loss again because the revenue that I'm deriving is only $90 and what I'm spending is more than that, hence reducing my profits. So an entrepreneur should always keep producing to the point where the marginal revenue equals the marginal cost, regardless of the market structure he is in. Let's see how we would represent this graphically. So let's see that, or let's assume we were at the level of P2. So P2 is the market demand curve. So the price that the market is giving is P2, and this is where the firm is operating in. The first curve that we will plot is the marginal cost curve. So we first plot the marginal cost curve. What is the point at which we will stop production? Where marginal revenue meets marginal cost. That is at point A. This is the average revenue curve or the demand curve or the marginal revenue curve. They're all the same. So you will stop at a level of Q2 because the marginal revenue is meeting the marginal cost. This is the profit maximizing level. At this level, we depict the average total cost as crossing the marginal cost curve at the point A. So this is the lowest point of the average total cost curve. So in this scenario, what is the total profit of the firm? Total profit is always equal to total revenue minus total costs. So what is the total revenue? Total revenue is the price multiplied by the quantity sold. So the price in this case is P2 multiplied by the quantity sold would be the area of this rectangle. So this, or the green triangle is the, or green rectangle is the total revenue. Now let's see the total cost. Total cost is nothing but the average total cost multiplied by the quantity. Now what is the quantity? The quantity is again Q2. And what is the average total cost? The average total cost is equal to, so the way we depicted it at the moment is the same as the P2. So AQ2, this distance is the average total cost. So what will be the total costs? It will be the average total cost into Q. It will be the same as this area. So what is the profit if the price is at the level of P2? It will be 0. Remember, in all curves that we talk about in economics, or all costs that we talk about in economics are economic costs. So if profit is equal to 0, it means that economic profit is equal to 0. It doesn't mean that the firm is at break even. It means that the firm is making a normal profit. The firm is doing nothing extraordinary. In the long run, competition will drive all firms to normal profits, or competition will eliminate supernormal profits. Let's say, or let's assume that there is a big drought in the world and vegetable production is badly hit. So what happens is that the prices of the vegetables have gone up to P1 such that the market demand curve is now looking like the horizontal line from P1. So this has happened because there is severe shortage in the production. The marginal cost curve still remains the same. The average total cost curve still remains the same. Now, where will the entrepreneur stop production? Any entrepreneur will stop production where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So in this case, he will stop production now at point B. At point B, let's see the total revenue that the firm has generated. Revenue is again equal to the price multiplied by the quantity. So the price is P1 multiplied by quantity, which is Q1. So price into quantity will simply be the area under the green rectangle. So this is the total revenue that the firm is generating. Now what is the total cost? Total cost is again the average total cost multiplied by the quantity. At a quantity of Q1, how much is the average total cost? It comes from the curve or from the ATC curve. We see at a level of Q1, this is the point where we get the average total cost. So this distance is the average total cost multiplied by the quantity. We multiply it with the quantity, we will get the total costs. So it is the average total cost multiplied by the quantity. So the red rectangle gives us the total costs. So this is the total revenue minus the total costs. The gray shaded region now represents my profit. This profit is a supernormal profit. This will enter the industry because there are no barriers to entry or exit. So more firms will enter the industry and drive the profits down or drive the prices down to P2 such that the supernormal profit does not sustain. In the long run, all firms in a perfect competition should make a normal profit or there will be zero supernormal profit. Now let's take the example of a case where the price has actually fallen down to P3. So the price has come down to this level. The marginal cost curve is represented as shown. The average variable cost curve is as shown and the average total cost curve. Now what is the point at which the firm will stop production? So we will have 3 dots that represent where the firm should start production. Will it be at the red dot or at the green dot or at the yellow dot? A firm stops production where MR is equal to MC. Marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, which is happening where? Incidentally, all 3 are happening at Q3 or all dots are in Q3, but we say that we will stop production at the quantity Q3 because of the green dot. It is where the marginal revenue equals the marginal cost. We stop production where marginal revenue equals the marginal cost. So we stop production at the point Q3. At Q3, what is the total profit that the company is making? It is total revenue minus total costs. Again, what is the total revenue? Let's use the green shade to represent the total revenue. It is the price multiplied by the quantity. So the green rectangle represents the total revenue. What are the total costs? That is the average total cost multiplied by the quantity. At a quantity of Q3, what is the average total cost? It is represented by the red dot. So what will be the average costs, or rather the total cost? It is the average total cost multiplied by the quantity. It will be the rest. It will be the red triangle. So the total revenue is lesser than the total cost. The gray shaded area is the total economic loss that the firm is making, because the total revenue is lower than the total cost. The question is, should the firm stop production? Given this graph, should the firm stop production? Let's see. If the firm stops, it will still have to incur the variable costs, rather the fixed costs. Whether I produce or I don't produce, the fixed costs still need to be incurred. So let's see what is the fixed cost, or the total fixed cost that the firm is incurring. The total fixed cost is simply equal to the average fixed cost multiplied by the quantity, or you can say the average total cost minus the average variable cost. Rather, the total cost minus the variable cost. The total cost minus the total variable cost is the total fixed cost. So both will give us the total fixed costs. The red triangle represents the total costs. What is the variable cost at this point? Let's use the pink shade to represent the variable cost at a quantity of Q3. The average variable cost comes out to be this point. So what will be the total variable cost? It will be the average variable cost multiplied by the quantity. Average variable cost multiplied by the quantity. So the pink triangle gives us the total variable cost. So what will be the total fixed costs? Let's use the blue rectangle to represent the total fixed costs. Too many shades now. It will be the total fixed cost, that is the big red triangle minus the new purple triangle. So the blue region, or the blue shaded region rather, is the total fixed cost. If the firm stops production, it will have to suffer a loss equal to the blue region. Will it be higher than the current loss or lesser than the current loss? The current loss is this gray region. So should the firm stop production? If you stop production, you will lose even more money. So the theory is that till the time you can cover your fixed costs or your variable costs, till the time you can cover the variable costs, you should continue production in the short run. Because otherwise the loss will be higher. So if you see here, the price is enough to cover the variable costs at least. The price is higher than the variable costs. So the firm should continue production. And the hope is that some companies will shut down in the industry such that the pricing will at least come back to the level of P2, where we are not making any economic loss. But if this sustains forever, then I will have to probably sell off the factory or shut down the business completely and fire everyone so that I don't spend the fixed costs also. But in the short run, I should continue and hope that pricing improves. Some players move out of the industry. For the last fiscal year, Legion Gaming reported total revenue of 700,000, total variable costs of 800,000, and total fixed costs of 400,000. Should the firm continue to operate in the short run? So the firm is not even able to meet its variable costs. If the firm continues production, he will make a loss of $500,000, 400 plus 100. If he does shut down, he will only make a loss of 400,000. So should he shut down or keep operating? This firm should shut down as he is unable to recover even the variable cost. Similarly, in the next example, if the total revenue was 850,000, then he should continue because he would at least be able to recover his variable costs and reduce the loss. But in the long run, if this situation doesn't improve, he may still have to exit the business completely. In the short run, if he is able to cover the variable costs, he should carry on. So in imperfect competition, that is, in a downward sloping demand curve, when should a firm stop production? So competition, perfect or imperfect, in all cases, in all market structures, a firm will stop production when marginal revenue equals marginal cost. If marginal revenue equals marginal cost, the profit is maximized. Only difference is that the marginal revenue curve will be a steeper declining curve than the average revenue curve or the demand curve. So the first two columns represents the demand curve or the average revenue curve. This is the marginal revenue curve. So you see that the marginal revenue is falling by 20 units, 30 units. So it's falling, it has a more steeper fall than the average revenue curve. That's what we proved in the previous slide as well, so nothing new. You can please read the chart and verify that profit is maximized when marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Before that and even after that, the profit will be lower because here we are making a loss because our revenue is lower than costs, and if we stop here, then we are giving up on some profits that could have been earned by producing more. So regardless of the structure, always remember a firm will stop production where marginal revenue equals the marginal cost. Now, we studied that price movements cause, or price changes cause movements along the demand curve, whereas external factors cause a shift in the curve. Please watch the previous video if you've forgotten the concept. So only look at the graph S0 and D0. So this is the graph S0 and this is the graph D0. So this was my original scenario and this was my original equilibrium where demand and supply met. Now let's say it is immediately discovered, this is the demand and supply for tea. The price of tea doesn't change, it is the same. And it is discovered that drinking tea cures cancer. If it is discovered that drinking tea cures cancer, in the short run, will it impact the demand curve or the supply curve? Will it immediately increase the demand for tea? So the demand for tea will become higher. At the same price, the demand will increase from D0 to D1. At the same price, the demand will increase from the earlier level to a higher level. So at the same price, the demand will increase. Now if the demand increases, the equilibrium will immediately move to point 2. The supply curve is still the same, S0, because supply cannot immediately increase and the demand has increased. So the equilibrium will move from point 1 to point 2. That is, the price will go up, some production will go up. As the price goes to point 2, more competition, more capacity will come into this industry because the profits are now high. Existing players will also want to expand capacity. New players will want to enter the capacity. So in the short run, the price will go up. But in the long run, the price may go up, the price may come down, or the price may remain flat. This depends on how effective and how technologically sound is the new capacity. So if the new capacity comes in an efficient manner, that is, there is new technological innovation and there are new ways and means derived to produce the product, then it may so happen that the new cost is coming at a price even lower, or at a cost of production even lower than the original. That is, the increase in demand is in the long run causing the price to decrease because supply is so innovative and supply is so technologically efficient. This is an example of a decreasing cost industry. Computers are a very good example of a decreasing cost industry. Even though demand has shot up, but prices have come down because the new supply is so technologically innovative that the cost of production is lower. Oil and petroleum is an example of an increasing cost industry. Even though demand has exploded in petroleum, in the case of petroleum as well, the supply has come at a higher cost. So the long run prices are going up. So what happens in the long run to the prices depends on how efficient the supply is or how technologically efficient the supply is. Miniphone Limited produces personal electronics, currently a decreasing cost industry. Demand for the products has increased recently. What is most likely to happen in the long run to selling prices and per unit production costs? So we're asking in the long run. It's a decreasing cost industry. So in the long run, the per unit production costs will reduce. Now, to produce a particular commodity, I can employ a mix of capital and labor. So to produce 10 shirts, I have two options. First is employ 8 labor and 1 capital or 1 machine. And the second option is employ 4 labor and 2 capital. Question is, which method of production will I use? 8 labor and 1 capital or 4 labor and 2 capital? Both will make me 10 shirts. Now, the profit maximizing input levels is where the marginal product per dollar spent is the same. The marginal product per dollar spent on the input. Let's understand with an example. So I can spend $75 and hire a new labor. If I hire a new labor, what is the marginal product of labor? I will get 5 more units. The second option is that I can spend $600 and hire 1 more machine. So $600 and get 1 more machine. If you get 1 more machine, you will get 30 more units of production. Question is, for $1 spent on labor, how many more units are you getting? For $75, I'm getting 5 units. For $1, I will get 5 by 75 units. That is 1 by 15 units. That is the marginal product per dollar spent, MP by P. So for $1 spent on labor, I'm getting 1 by 15 units. Let's see in case of capital. For $600, you are getting 30 units of production. That means for $1, you are effectively getting 30 by 600 or 1 by 20 units of production. So where is spending $1 giving you more? If I spend $1 on labor, I get 1 by 15 units. If I spend $1 on capital, I get 1 by 20 units. So where should I spend my money? On labor or capital? At the moment, labor is better because I'm getting more output. So if the company is in this stage, then the firm is not optimally using its inputs. The firm should sell some machines and with the money it gets, employ more labor. Why? Because for the money it gives up, or the machine it gives up, it will lose out on only 1 by 20 units of production. So $1 that comes out of machines loses 1 by 20 units of production. But $1 that goes into labor gets 1 by 15 additional products. So if I take out money from capital and move it to labor, then I will extinguish less and produce more. Hence, for the same money, I will produce more. So the profit maximizing input level is where MP by P, that is this 5 by 75 and this 30 by 60 would have been the same. That means I'm indifferent. Whether I spend on labor or I spend on capital, both are giving me the same amount of produce. So profit maximizing input level is where marginal product per unit of dollar spent is the same for all inputs to production. That is the same. So this is the profit maximizing level. The next question is, even in this optimum scenario where MP by P is equal, how much should we keep producing, or how much to employ? So we should employ it in the proportion as mentioned in the previous slide, but how much should we employ? We should employ till the time the marginal revenue is equal to the cost. The profit maximizing level is where the marginal revenue, in this case also written as marginal revenue product, is equal to the marginal cost, or the marginal revenue product divided by the marginal cost is equal to 1. That means whatever revenue I'm earning is equal to the cost of the input. The revenue that I'm earning is equal to the cost of the input. That means I am at the profit maximizing level as discussed in so many slides earlier. That you should continue production till the time marginal revenue equals the marginal cost. So let's do one example and wind this up well. So consider the following data for Centerline Industries. The firm's inputs can be categorized as high technology equipment, unskilled labor, and highly trained workers. The marginal revenue, marginal product, and cost per day for the various inputs are summarized in the following table. Assume that the inputs can substitute for each other in the production process. So high technology equipment will produce 30 units. That is, one high technology input produces 30 units. Each unit can be sold for $30 and the cost per unit is $800. Each unskilled labor will produce 5 units. Each unit can be sold for $30 and the price of unskilled labor is $160 per labor. Each highly trained worker will give me 15 units. Each of those units can be sold for $30 and each highly trained worker costs $450. Is the firm operating at the cost minimizing level for its inputs? Is the first question. So how do we know if it is at the optimum level? The marginal product per dollar spent should be the same. So the marginal product per dollar spent for high technology equipment is how much? For spending $800, I'm getting 30 units. For spending $160, I'm getting 5 units. So 30 by 800, 5 by 160, 15 by 450 will be the marginal product per dollar spent. So let's see how much is it for high technology equipment, unskilled labor and highly trained workers. So it comes out to be 0.0375 for high technology equipment, 0.03125 for unskilled labor, and 0.033. Now clearly these are not all the same. Because they are not all equal, that means the firm is not running at the profit maximizing level for its inputs. What should this firm do? High technology equipment is very productive. For $1 spent, we are getting the highest output out of high technology equipment. From unskilled labor, for $1 spent, we are getting the lowest output. So we should remove some unskilled labor and get more high technology equipment. Assuming diminishing marginal factor returns, this means that incrementally each factor will give lower and lower output, as we saw in the case of our shirts. Incremental labor was not as productive. What adjustments to its input mix, if any, should the firm make to increase profits? So what should the firm do to its input mix? It should change from unskilled workers to high technology equipment. It's selling 800 or it's spending $800 on high technology equipment to receive 30 products. One high technology equipment gives 30 products, each of which can be sold for $30. So my revenue is $900 and my costs are $800. Each unskilled labor is costing $160 and giving me 5 products, which can be sold for $30, meaning I can earn $150. For high skilled labors, I get 15 units, that is $450 of revenue for a cost of $450. So high skilled revenue is optimally utilized. The unskilled labor is suboptimally utilized at the moment. That is, I should remove some unskilled labor and employ more high-tech equipment. As I hire more high-tech equipment, the marginal product of high-tech equipment will come down, such that the marginal revenue product will increase the price. As I reduce the unskilled labor, the marginal revenue product of unskilled labor will increase. Hence again making the marginal revenue product equal to the price of unskilled labor. So employ fewer unskilled workers and more high-tech equipment to maximize profitability. In the next video, we will study the remaining market structures, namely monopolistic competition, oligopoly, monopoly, and discuss the demand-supply dynamics. So after today's discussion, that is going to be a relatively straightforward, as most of the concepts are applied straight. Marginal revenue equals the marginal cost. We will see the nitty-gritties, and we will move on to studying macroeconomics and related concepts in the coming videos. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Practice your questions. Practice is the key to success. Thank you.